You're about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in the good old USA to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Folks, it's been some time since I've been on the air. I wanted to give you a little historical background of this podcast. I started around 2003. This is when podcasting was new. And I went pretty strong, and I actually opened up my own studio after a while. And then physical, things came through, and I had to close it down for a while. And so I set it up. Now this is actually in my house. I converted a room into a studio. But one thing I have to admit, I've been very lazy lately. And maybe it's because of my old age, In fact, I was just 77 years. So 77, my gosh, I can't count that high, and that's how old I am. But, anyway, but I've been really lax in broadcasting on a regular basis. I should be doing at least twice a week, at least my own once a week, and have a guest or two, which I'm going to attempt to do. I promise I will attempt to do that. Okay, well, today's program will center around the coronavirus. This is a very complex issue, and I'm not going to talk about the medical procedures or what steps should have been taken. I wouldn't know that at all. I'm not versed in that at all. What I am concerned about is every time there seems to be some sort of national problem like this epidemic, it seems that the states are become more hypnotized as to what to do, and the federal government takes over and then acts outside of their constitutional rights. In fact, when I say Constitution, I bet you many people who are listening to this program right now haven't heard that word in years, because we never referenced the Constitution. You see, the United States is the United States. It's not the country of the United States. It is the United States that make up the country. And each state is responsible for the people in their state, not the President of the United States. The President of the United States has no right, constitutionally, no right to tell the people in any particular state what they can and cannot do. That right rests with the governor of that state. Now, when they imposed, now obviously we need to do something. We're not saying let's not do anything, see everyone die out of this terrible situation that we're in with the coronavirus. I mean, action should have been taken a lot sooner. But the right to take the action and for the state is in fact the government of that state and not the United States. Now, why we always seem to skip that very important constitutional step is beyond me. Because what's needed in New York is not what's needed in Arizona or Arkansas or wherever around the United States. Each state is different. And each state should always prepare, not only the federal government, but each state should prepare for some unscheduled event, whether it be a flood. Where I live, we get volcanoes. I'm sorry, tornadoes. I'm being tornadoes from time to time. And in fact, when I first moved here back in 1974, I believe it was, 4 days after I moved into my house, a tornado ripped all the houses, lifted them off the ground and blew them away 2 blocks away from my house. I've never seen a tornado before, and I used to live in Houston, but I never saw a tornado. I saw flooding, but no tornadoes. So every state has different problems, different demographics, different geography, different weathers and whatever. And so it's not incumbent upon the federal government to know what each state could and should do, and we should not wait for the federal government to make edict, to present an edict out and say this is what you have to do to stop your flood. It's up to the states. It's states' rights. But we have forgotten that, and that's so important. And it couldn't be more important than with this virus. For example, there are some countries, states in the center part of the United States, especially the northern part, that have very, very little coronavirus instances. They're able to handle it very easily. In fact, the hospitals are just literally waiting for people to come in. And then you have places like Los Angeles and New York, which are famous for this. They have people who are living in congested areas, major people on food stamps who are unable to handle themselves, that are on government assistance, living in apartment buildings. I know I'm from New York. I lived in an apartment building. They're not the most pleasant place in the world. And so if someone gets sick in that apartment building, maybe everyone will get sick in that apartment building. Where once you move to the mid part of the United States, and especially the northern portion, people are living much further apart. They're living in cleaner areas. There you don't find apartment buildings that are 24 stories high, of which most people never leave, because in many of these projects the gangs are so brutal. If you ever got in the elevator, you never get out. Let me tell you, I've been there. I know the neighborhood. All right. So I'm saying every state is different. There is absolutely no way that the federal government can make edicts out, for every state in the union. In fact, it was never meant to be that way. Every state must fend for themselves. Now you say, well, the states may not have the funds. Well, that's true, but neither does the federal government. And they say, well, the federal government is going to make money available. Well, the question is, where is the money coming from? We are already we're something like $77 trillion. This is the ones that are on the books now. This doesn't include all the exceptional items, which accounts for twice this number. All right, we're $78 trillion in the hole. Now, if you count everything and everybody who owes money, that and I'm not just talking about 1 month because of credit card. I mean owes money. You're talking about over $1 quadrillion. So you say, well, the states can't afford it. Well, neither could the federal government, because all the federal government is going to do is print money, and who's going to pay the money back? Well, I'm going to pay it back. You're going to pay it back. We're all going to pay this money back. It's going to come back in taxes. The government could print the money, but all that's going to do is reduce the value of every dollar printed. So we're going to have rapid inflation. All right, I want to get off that for a second, but I want to make a point, is that we have been handling this crisis in a way in which it is guaranteed to cost us money beyond our wildest imagination. In fact, this may be the destruction of the United States. Now, it's not being caused by the virus, and neither is it being caused the downfall of the United States caused by the coronavirus and what it costs to fight it. No. That's a small portion of it. We have a military around the world. We have something like 400 military bases around the world. Why? Why do we have them? 400? Are we at war with everyone? And if we just closed all of these bases, brought everyone home, and any soldiers that were not needed for immediate use or with immediate service, rather, not use, but service, they should be, returned to the private sector. We would save billions and billions every year, and financing something like a coronavirus would be a piece of cake, be no problem at all. But it should not be. It should not be financed by the federal government. Maybe it could be assisted by the federal government, but not financed by the federal government, because every state needs to make sure that they have a budget, and they should account for things that possibly could occur. They just don't have a budget, and then they say, well, this year we'll only be short $14 million or something like that. I'm making that number up. They should say, no, we're going to have a surplus of so much. That surplus goes in the bank, in our banks or in our little piggy bank, right? And in the event there's this unexpected occurrence that would affect all of the citizens, this money has already been taxed. It's all tax money. We can use that money, to help our citizens during this, whatever the crisis may be. But we don't do that. We go into severe debt. We beg the government to bail us out. And then when there's something like a coronavirus, right, we have to rely totally on the federal government. The federal government has no money at all. It's broke. It is beyond broke. We're the most indebted, in dollars, most indebted country in the world. And I think we're like number 2 and number 3 in actual being relatively broke, relative to its size. In fact, we're a monetary basket case. And here they are. Would you believe it? What I saw on TV, I couldn't believe. The Senate voted on the funding of the coronavirus. The Senate. Wait a minute. The Senate doesn't vote on anything. It's the Congress that's responsible for that. But no, they made the Senate do that. And then after they went to the Senate, of course it was approved. No one said no. It made no difference. You couldn't hear anybody. It was a call-out vote. Then they went to the Congress, and Congress didn't vote. They just yelled yay or nay. So they said, all in favor? Yay, no, yay, in favor, no, yays have it. I mean, that's not the way you do business. You've got to talk this thing out. You got to say, where is the money coming from? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to print more money. Well, we've already printed trillions and trillions of dollars that we can never pay back. So we're going to add to this. Now, we'll tackle, and we will, in fact, beat the coronavirus, right? Now, I have no doubt about that. Right? But the manner in which we'll do it, we will do a tremendous amount of financial harm. They say, well, Joe, you can't put a price on people's lives. That's not my point. My point being is that we should not be in this financial condition where we cannot ever pay this back. We're going to destroy the currency, and many people will suffer and die because of that. They'll starve or whatever the case may be. There will be consequences to all of this. And no one looks at this from a constitutional point of view. Where are all these conservative Republicans, you bunch of bums? You conservative Republicans, why aren't you screaming like crazy? Why aren't you insisting on being TV and say, what we are doing is wrong? And why aren't the states saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't run state deficits every month or every year? Look at places like Illinois, places like, especially in Detroit, where there's a hellacious amount of debt, and there's still unions there waiting for payments for companies that don't even exist anymore. We are in a financial hellhole that's beyond description. And here we are with a coronavirus, with a virus that's killing many, many people, innocent people, for no reason whatsoever. And I don't even know how it got here and why we didn't detect it beforehand. To me, it's illogical for us to say, well, it started in China. Well, we have people in China. We have satellites going around the world, and taking pictures, everything. You mean we didn't know anything was going on? We have companies in China. We have citizens living in China. We have not military people, governmental people in China. You mean a whole city almost literally dies away and no one knows it, and we get it well after the fact, and then we finally initiate some action even later than that? None of that makes any sense to me. We have a problem, folks. We can't solve our problems if we don't allow the people who are responsible for their state, their county, whatever it is, to be responsible. We can't have every state in debt to a point where they can't even service their debt and look to Washington for it, because then when something happens, guess what? We don't have it. We look to Washington. So then Washington takes a little bit more power away from the states. We no longer have any more states' rights. It's whatever the government does. And, I tell you, President Trump, I have nothing against the guy. Listen, he's from New York. How could I hate him too much, But, I wish the guy would just be more logical in what he does. We got some paper here. I got a paper hanging here. Excuse me. I don't know what it says. Oh, it's my wife. It says, oh, she says she loves me. That's wonderful. Excuse me. Anyway, but, I just wish he would stop being the center stage, that he would give the microphone to people who know what's going on and give their speech without him being there. You ever notice when someone discusses something, he's always got to be standing there and he fidgets around like, when are you going to get off? Because I want to get by the microphone again because I'm more important than you. I find it unnerving. Get off the stage. Don't even go there. The president has no power according to the Constitution. None. The power rests with the states, and that's where the Senate comes in, because the Senate is made up of representatives of each state, and the congressmen are the ones from that state that make laws. No one else. But we forgot all that. And of course, the reason why we forgot all that is because we were never taught that really in school. We may have mentioned it, but don't worry about it. It won't be on the test type thing. I just wish we can get this country together. Just fix it all up. Everything is broken. And it has nothing to do with the coronavirus. It's just horrible. The reason why there's so much high incidence of coronavirus in New York City. I know, I live there, in the projects, is that you have too many people living very close to each other. And most people, I know folks, for people who don't come from the neighborhoods like I came from, many people who live there never leave their apartments. You know why? It's dangerous. People who live in high-rise, the city-subsidized housing projects, 24 stories high, the only way they can get out is using the elevator. There's a saying, you take the elevator, you never get out, because that's where everyone gets mugged. So it's a horrible place to live. But then we have the absence of the family, where the family says, Mary, where you going? You going out with Bobby? Bobby's a bum. You're not going out with him. Where's the control by them? But it seems like young girls are going out in the middle of the night. Who knows what they're doing, Somebody get pregnant. Oh, they get pregnant. No problem. I'll go for, sign up for welfare. They'll pay my rent. They'll pay the food, this and that. And they'll pay my medical bills and all that. And I may even have 2 kids that way. Geez, I'm not paying for it. What the hell? We've become people without responsibility. And it really bugs me. It really bugs me. things were real strict when I was a kid. Oh God, were they strict, In fact, no girls got pregnant, I mean, if they got pregnant, they were married. That's why they got pregnant, they had kids, And everyone fended for themselves. There was so little government. If you did screwed up and you lost money, you had to make it up. There was no one there for you, unless you had rich parents. No one had rich parents back then. Folks, I don't have an answer to the coronavirus. All I know is that we blew it from the very beginning. I'm sure someone knew something about it. They knew something about it. And then, after they knew about it, they didn't take any action. And then when the action was taken, the governors of each state weren't summoned saying, this may come here, take care of your state. But most can't because they're broke. And the reason why they're broke is that they have all these government programs that they have to comply with. So they always go to the government for handouts. So every state is basically bankrupt looking for handouts. So when they look for handouts from the states, from the federal government, boy, they do what the government's told. They become slaves of the federal government. And that's exactly the opposite of what our founding fathers planned this place to be. It's horrible. We're doing it wrong. We'll get out of this. Many people will die. I'm not saying that, had everyone listened to what I said and they followed the formula, not my formula, but the formula of the Congress, well, fewer people would have died. I'm just saying that things would have been different. Maybe things would have been handled much quicker. Maybe some states that felt that let's take action now. We won't wait for the federal government, we will take action now. And other states that say, hey, we're not going to have that problem because of these 3 or 4 reasons, and we're going to wait to see what happens. And maybe people would have a freer society. People make decisions for themselves. People rely on their county, on the city, the county, and the state rather than the federal government. Now, maybe all this is Pollyanna, wishful thinking, And I don't mean to chastise the President of the United States. He's got a tough job. But I really wish he would read the Constitution. I think if he really read the Constitution, he'd say, wow, I've been doing everything wrong. What's the matter with me? Now, I'm making fun in a way of him, but I don't mean to. I mean, I really think we should go back to the basics of everyone being responsible for themselves. In my neighborhood, if someone was sick, the people in the neighborhood helped out. If you needed to see a doctor, the doctor came to your house. You didn't go to the doctor's office. That's the way it used to be. And people helped each other. In fact, on First Avenue in Harlem, there was this one woman, lived next door, 2409 First Avenue. Remember the number too. She used to wait for me to come out and play with my friends. You know why? Because she was so poor. She couldn't afford a clock, and she asked me to get her the time. Those were tough days. Now we seem to have everything, but we're going to lose everything if we don't take things back to where they should be. The way this country was designed is a beautiful document, the Constitution, and it made sense. And if there was a problem, it was a local problem. And let's take all of our troops around the world, bring them home. Every one of them, close everything down, put all the excess stuff in a desert somewhere out west, extra planes, extra tanks and whatever, and leave everyone else alone. We would save billions and billions of dollars a year. After a few years, we'd have enough money probably to even balance the budget. I mean, to me, that's so simple. Well, I'm getting sentimental now. You know that. I'm almost going to break out in tears for myself. But I'd like you to think about that. And please, I'm sure many people will disagree with me. But if you do, that's fine. Please, my email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Please feel free to do so. Be kind, though. I'm getting old, you got to be nice to an old person, I never thought I'd say that to myself, but ever since I've been my last birthday, which was only a couple of weeks ago, I feel old. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for listening in, and you can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. If you'd like to write me, it's comments@libertytalkradio.com. Okay? Till next time, stay well. Oh, by the way, tomorrow night or Friday night, we may have Andy Sutton. He's an economist back, and he wants to rant a little bit, so you may want to listen in if you can. I don't. If it's tomorrow, Thursday night, it may be at 7 o'clock Central Time. Okay? Until next time, stay well. Stay tuned.